I like to make samplers, and these are some of the samplers I've made. Not all, because a lot of them I've made into pillows. These are just ones I haven't actually done anything with yet. That one the wrong way around. So, really enjoy doing these. Have more to do. This is one I'm going to do. I have another one on the way. I'm waiting for to come from Japan. Today I'm going to show you the newest one that just arrived that I'm going to do. I'm pretty excited about this one. So I'm just going to open the package and see what's in here. I bought this directly from Japan, so I had to wait for a while for it to come, and I bought it through Etsy. I have done that before. So this pretty much shows what it looks like when it's done. And not sure how to categorize this. It's got some Hito Mizashi elements. I guess I'm going to go with that as a description. One thing I do like on these instructions is there are different patterns on this, and it does name them all. So Asanoha, and I'm sure I pronounce all these wrong. Anyway, you can read those for yourself, so I don't just make a terrible job of the pronunciations. That's just a little picture of what it is. See what else is in here. Oh, some kind of instructions there in Japanese of how to stitch some of these patterns. It just shows some directions. That'll give me some hints, you know, if I'm not sure which way to stitch it, so that's good. And this is just a flyer. This is the shop I bought it from. And this is just a flyer of other patterns that you can get. I've done one similar to that before. Some of these I've not seen before. Really snowy outside. Well, it's been really snowing. The snow's taking a long time to clear it. That's really unusual for here. So it's good weather to stay in and do Sashiko. There is a 20% off coupon there for my next purchase. I'll be using that. And then, oh, here's the thread. Let's take that out, shall we, and have a look at that. So there's two threads. This variegated blue by Hobby, and that's somebody that I've bought thread from before, and I like their thread. And it's not super thick, but that's fine. And then this one is just a plain blue. And I'm not sure, but it looks like there's less of that than the variegated. So I think that the plain blue is probably for this part, and the variegated for the pattern in between. So let's open this up and have a look. Oh, there's another paper here. What's this? Oh yeah, more instructions. So they nearly all come with little instructions like this. This one's actually got some English. And if you look here, there are some of the very basic rules of Sashiko, like not crossing over in the center of a star type or flower pattern or a cross. So those are good little hints if you're learning Sashiko. And I like that they're in English. I'm seeing more of that, I guess, because there's a growing market here in America. And then this is the actual sampler. So I don't know, have you done a sampler before? I love to do samplers. I love the way the pattern's already printed on there for me because, I don't know, for the umpteenth time, I don't like to draw. I like to spend my time stitching, not doing all the other part of the drawing and everything to it. So I'm going to iron this. I'll iron it on the back, and I won't use steam. And that's because these lines are water soluble. I don't want any steam to blur the lines before I sew it, and I want it to be able to stay on there. On the very corner where all there is a straight line, this corner here for example, I'll just put my iron on the opposite side and try it right there. And if the lines stay on there, then I'll know it will be good. Of all the samplers I've done, I always test them. I've never had one yet where the markings came off. But I can't guarantee that won't happen, so I would always advise to test, and I do always test. So I think this is going to be a fun project, and I can't wait to get started, so I'm heading to the iron. I am sewing through double thickness, this the pattern side and the plain side. I like to sew through. I've decided to start on the longer lines of the sampler. That's the piece that looks like big flower petals. Let me just get it and show you. This part. So I'm going to start with this little skein of thread here. And I'm not sure how this has already been cut because I've not actually received one like this. Oh, I see, it just doesn't have a label on. So hopefully there's enough colour in here because I don't know how to match this up if there isn't. But When I've bought from Japanese sellers before, and I have bought from this particular seller before, they've always been very helpful if there was a problem. So I feel like even if it did run out, I could contact them and get some help finding out. So this has already actually been cut, which is unusual. You know, usually it comes in a loop and you have to cut it and open it, and it's just got a thread tied through the middle. So that's just pretty easy for me to pull one of these threads out and start sewing. And I am going to start in the center on this piece, I think. I haven't actually decided on my use yet for this, but it's so pretty, I think I might hang it on the wall. So I'm not going to finish the edges on this one, I'm just going to leave it with raw edges. Started my sampler here. I decided to do these circles first because that pretty much anchors the whole sampler. And I just have a little bit here that I'm going to do right now. I'm using the plain blue thread for these circles. I may not do every single row of the circle at the moment. I think that I'll do 2 in each circle, and then I'll check how the thread situation goes and see if I need to do one of them in a variegated thread. And I'm thinking actually that a variegated thread might look nice down the centre just as a little bit of contrast, although the blues are very similar, they're not going to look very different when I do that. But I started this with a knot on the back's not going to show, and I'm just loading stitches onto my needle. I really love these samplers. I like the way the stitches are marked, I like the way the pattern's already drawn for me, so I can spend the time stitching. I find it very relaxing. Usually I sit in a chair and I do it while I'm watching the TV or listening to music or something. Sometimes I listen to audiobooks. I like to do that, although I prefer to read, but that way I can listen to a book and do this. Just very relaxing. It's been the perfect weather for it here as well, because we've had a lot of snow, which is really unusual for here. This pattern, the Jayuji Hanasashi, is the part I'm sewing now. It's the very large petal shapes, and it's the basis for the pattern. So that is oversized and placed first, and then the other patterns fit within that shape. It's kind of an unusual design. I've done the 2 outer lines on that section of the pattern in this blue thread. And now I'm going to change to the variegated thread. Can you see the difference there? Got my thimble. There are different thimbles, but this is the one I prefer. It's a palm thimble. And I'm using a knot throughout because the back's not going to show. You can see that Jayuji Hanasashi pattern, oversized pattern, now that it's laid out. And I'm starting here on one of the patterns using this variegated thread. I like these colour changes in thread, it's just interesting to see it as it goes onto the fabric. I can see it's going to be a little bit different in the way you sew this because you have a pointed corner to the pattern, so I'm going to have to think about it as I go along. I can load all the stitches from that full length of this little section onto my needle and then pull them through. but here I can only do one stitch at a time. Now I've shown a little bit of stitching, which the Sashiko stitch won't vary pattern to pattern, apart maybe from a little bit of size. I'm just going to go ahead and sew, and I will just come back quickly every so often and show how I'm getting on. This little section is done, so I'm going to move on to another section now. Doing all these different patterns on one piece really keeps it interesting. I think that's going to look good. This is one of my favourite patterns to do anyway, and you can see that's actually quite an easy one to draw. And there it is finished, and the variegated thread shows up quite well on that pattern too. And we'll move over here to this pattern and start in this section next. So I'm moving on here with my sampler. I've got a couple more sections done, that one, and I really like that one, although the stitches are a little bit bigger than I like to do on that. I'm going to start working on this section here now. This is Asinoha, or a hemp leaf in English. This is coming along great. Only a few sections left to do now, so I'm going down here to this one. This one is Hishi Sakeha. I don't know all the names of these patterns, but I think that is what that one is. I've decided I am going to use the variegated thread for this inner line, and it's all completed. And I'm really pleased with the results of that. It looks great, definitely a wall hanging.